Let's talk a little bit about projects. We're going to talk about how to upscale this to actually your entire business. Just like you can set profit for a certain project, well, how can you step back and set goals for your entire company? As well as then, how can you work with not just customers, existing customers, but even prospects? So let's talk about all those three categories one at a time. Let's start off with projects. So super excited about projects. We've done quite a bit of work here with projects in the Intuit Enterprise Suite. You can, of course, create a new project. We could spend an hour here. So I'm going to try to hit the high points. And then again, I encourage you, if you want to learn more about anything we talked about today, we'll talk about this in a little bit. If we don't cover every single point today, no problem. You can set up a call. We can talk more to you about it, but we'll hit the highlights. So when you create a new project, which is really neat, is it always asks you to start off with an estimate for the project. That does a number of things. One, it helps you track income, costs, estimates versus actuals. Again, profit margin. You really want to start with an estimate. And then as you click into the project, we're going to use an existing one versus create a new one. But here's where, again, as we mentioned, you can set a project profit goal. And the system can automatically let you know if you're starting to fall below. Are you trending where you're going to start to fall below? Again, what course corrections do you need to make? What feeds into all of this? Well, again, all your transactions, expenses that materials you've purchased that you need to track to this customer job, labor, contractor work, all of that we can track under time activity. So all the different hours, both from contractors as well as W-2 employees. And then you can start getting really rich insights, again, from your project reporting. Things customers have been asking for quite some time. So work in progress, estimates versus actuals, cost to complete the project. These are some of the really big reports that customers have been asking for quite some time. And of course, we have quite a bit more. But yeah, it just really helps you understand how is your project progressing, and then how are your KPIs or your key performance indicators, costs, revenue, expenses, how are those tracking so that you maintain the profitability that you want to. And then lastly, I'm just going to hit on this, super important, change log. What this basically means, customers have been asking for this for quite some time. This is change orders. What's really nice about change orders is the fact that we didn't used to have a change order process. What the change orders will let you do is, it's happened to every one of us. Hey, you have a contractor, they're remodeling the kitchen. They really know their stuff. You love them. You're like, hey, you know what? Let me show you this bathroom. I've been thinking about doing it too. It happens to the best of us. We see their work. We see their quality. We want them to do a little bit more. How do you track that change to the project? Well, the nice thing is when you create a project estimate, you can come in here to the change log. You can log that change order. You can capture who made it, when they made it, why they made it. And that way, when you get to the end of the project, if anyone, has forgotten that there were some change orders, some difference in costs, everything's documented, everything's logged. It makes it much easier to square up with your customer, your client at the end of the project, because you have a very detailed, debit and credit of everything that changed from that original estimate you sent out when you first created the project. So a lot of great tools there, again, to help you stay on track with projects. But let's talk about the next piece of the puzzle, which is really unlocking, not just tracking things per each and every individual project you do, but how do we upscale it to doing this for your business? Let's go into our financial planning for just a moment, and we're going to show you a few things. So what you can do here, and it's very exciting, again, talking with customers, so many times I ask them, hey, how are you currently setting forecasts and budgets for the next year? And a lot of times they'll just laugh and like, you probably know the answer, manually, it's in my head, or, we have this archaic Excel spreadsheet. And none of that's necessarily bad. Okay. It's good that you're working at getting a forecast for the team for the next quarter or year. But how can, again, the software step in and help automate, make that make that important business function just a little bit more smooth. So, let's talk a little bit about forecasts. Here you can see, again, your actuals, this dotted line, again, that forward-looking view of what's going to happen based upon what's going on with your business. But if we go down to create a custom forecast, here's where things get really exciting. And again, the nice thing about a forecast, it doesn't hit your books. It doesn't make journal entries or whatever. This is really just a planning tool for you to get that proactive forward-looking view into your business. So you can do a consolidated forecast, meaning that, it's everything in your entire business. A subdivided forecast really means if you're working with class tracking, if you have different classes, maybe different using locations or different departments, or even with Intuit Enterprise Suite, we won't talk about it today, but dimensions, which takes classes quite a bit further than what it could traditionally do. Now you can start to create specific forecasts and budgets for a class, a location, a dimension. Super exciting. But for this case, we're just going to say consolidated to show you how this works. You can go ahead and put in the date range that you want this forecast for. Again, you can do this for the year, or you can do it for the quarter. And you can also do several takes of the same forecast. What's exciting about that is, we'll get into this in just a moment, you can do a lot of scenario planning. Also, are you wanting average? Are you wanting a certain date range? Are you wanting a certain budget to be pulled in to help you, be the basis or the foundation of your data for your forecast? And then over what period of time do you want that data pulled? But here's where things get super exciting. So, again, maybe you're sitting down, you're planning, you're thinking about the next quarter, next year. You know what? Income, hey, we're getting some new clients. We're on a pretty good growth trajectory. I think we can grow 18%. Okay. That's probably conservative, and this is what I mean by making 3 of these. You could do a super conservative, you could do a, super good, or a aggressive, growth for the next quarter or year. And then you could do something in the middle. Okay. So yeah, I think my revenue is going to increase by 18% from everything I'm seeing. This will be a good baseline forecast. My cost of sales is going to increase, as we've been talking about, some of the economic uncertainty, supply chains, other things, so I really think this is going to increase by 10%. Okay. But I think I can decrease some of my expenses due to some operational efficiencies, by about 3 to 4%. So we'll go ahead and say 3%, and on down the road. So now you can model this out. You can click next. It's going to take your real data and it's going to build in these scenarios. And again, so you can say, hey, this is my next quarter or my next year. Here's what we think it's going to be, based upon what we're seeing. And then you could go right back in here and you could say, hey, let me do one that's a little bit more aggressive. Let's see if we can grow revenue by 22%. Let's see if we can shrink our cost of goods sold to 9% and on down the road, and keep our expenses at 3%. What would that do to my books? How much more cash flow would that give me? What could I do? How can I get the team excited and start planning, start marketing, and getting ready to make this a reality? So what happens then? Now that you've made a forecast, again, you can have a budget, so you can see, how am I progressing with that forecast? Have I spent all the money in the budget and we're only halfway through the year, or halfway through that quarter? What's my budget versus actuals look like? Again, this gives you that really proactive, forward-looking view, so you understand, how are you trending? Are you going to make it? Where do you need to make some adjustments? So actuals, budgets, are you over budget? What percentage of your budget's been used or is still available? A lot of great insights in here. And one last thing I wanted to show here on this is goals. So remember, on the project level, we were talking about, hey, we can set a certain, goal for, like, hey, I want to maintain a 25% profitability on this project. Well, what's really exciting about Intuit Enterprise Suite, and this is an Intuit Enterprise Suite specific feature, we can do forecasts and budgets and smaller versions in some of our other products. But, having these goals is something specific to this product, and I think something that you're really going to enjoy, because now you can, again, get more proactive and say, now that I got my forecast, now that I got my budget, I want the software to monitor. I want to set a gross profit margin for, again, the quarter or the year. You can fill this in. Here's where you can create those goals. And let's just look at what our options are. So you can create a company goal. It could be against income, expenses, profit margin. And what's really exciting is as you set these up and as the software starts tracking it, as you can see here, you will actually get suggestions based upon the AI analytics running in the background. If you're starting to fall a little bit short, if you're starting to go over, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do, how you can course correct. And again, it's without you having to run multiple Excel spreadsheets, sit down and do hours of analysis. This can really be fed to you automatically, which is super exciting for many finance teams, owners, CFOs. They want this kind of insight so they can make those better business decisions and course correct as needed. So that being said, I feel like I just threw a tremendous amount at you, but I get really excited about this product. Again, if you want to deep dive further into this product, if anything that we brought up today, you have more questions, please let us know. We'd love to understand your unique needs and how Intuit Enterprise Suite can help you. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you for having me.